Hello everyone and welcome to the user models lecture. In this lecture we will discuss how to use Django built-in tools to create user authorization models, and we will also discuss more about how to set up the media files we saw previously into your our project. So now previously when we have logged into the admin page of any of our project, we have seen that there is already a built-in authentication authorization model set in place. And in this database, were two things. One of them was groups and the other one was users. So we are going to learn how to use these features of users. And previously you also may have heard me mention that sometimes it's not a good idea to call users in your model. That is a model that you created. And the reason for that is you may get it confused with these users. Now they will show up differently in the admin as well as we saw earlier, but this is the kind of users we are talking about, the one that's built in into the authentication or authorization model. So that specific user object has a few key features, and that is the username, the email and the password. The first name and then the username, which is the last name, and there are also some other attributes for the user object, such as is it active, is it staff, is it super user, and sometimes you will also want to add more attributes to user, such as their own links of profile usage or profile image, etc. So you can do this in your application models that we file by creating another class that has a relationship to the user class. So let's see an actual example of what this code would look like. So here comes a giant screenshot, and this is what it looks like in your application model.py file. First, we want to import that special user from Django contrib authorization models. Import user so that are models, and then what we are going to do is create an actual model and we'll call it user model. Okay, user model info, something that expands of that user, and we inherit from model, and then we create a relationship. We don't directly inherit from user. Instead, what we do is we create a one-to-one field relationship, and what that basically means is this extra user profile info that has a direct one-to-one connection to the user model, and then we add in any additional attributes you want. So with the base user model, you already have the previous attribute I mentioned, the username, the email, the password, first name, the last name. But if you want your users to have other attributes to them in the models, you use this sort of extension of it by the one-to-one field relationship. And here is an example of what we are going to be doing, which is adding two things. One is URL link for the user, which links to their portfolio. Let's say we are making some sort of website where they can link to their portfolio or their website, and that's what we are going to do here. So we say portfolio is equal to modules URL field, and we set blank equal to true there, so they don't have to fill it out, it's optional. And then the other one we do is picture or a profile picture, whatever you want to call that variable, and that's an image field. So what we are going to be doing with that is having the user, when they register to the website, actually be able to upload a profile picture, much like you would do on Facebook or maybe even like Gmail. And then we have the string method, which is just a built-in attribute of self username. Remember, the user attribute that built into Django has that username. So what we end up doing is, if you could ever print out the user, it just returns back that username. Okay, so notice that one of the fields was something we have not seen yet, an image field. So if I quickly go back here, that picture was a model's image field. Now this will allow you to store images to a model, and typically we will keep any user uploaded content like this in the media file. We previously created the media file in the last lecture. So in order to work with images of Python, we also need to install the Python imaging library, and you can easily install it with pip install pillow. Okay, now sometimes users, especially maybe some Windows users on old Windows machine may get an error on this command indicating something like JPG support is disabled. If you have that error coming up when you say pip install pillow, and in this option here, so you can say pip install pillow dash dash global option build underscore, okay, dot txt, and then space dash dash global dash option is equal to dash dash disable dash jpg. All right. So once you have created that model of the basically the extension of that user model, you have to remember to register it to the admin.py file with something like admin site register user profile info, where user profile info was imported from the models.py file. So now typically images, those CSS, JavaScript files, etc. all go in the static folder of your project. With that static route variable path defined inside of settings.py, which we did in the last lecture, and then the user uploaded content. So it is going to go to the media folder with the media route, and then once you have set up your models and your routes for static and media uploads or output, what you want to do is set up the actual form. So again, you want to implement a Django form that the user can use to work with the website, and we are going to show you a quick example of what this would actually look like inside of the forms.py file of your application. So we already talked about the models.py. Now let's talk about the forms.py that the user is going to be using. So the code inside of forms.py file looks something like this. You say from Django imports forms, and then from the basic application you made the models import that user profile info model. Then we create a new class, we'll say user profile info form that forms that model form as we saw in the other Django levels. And then we create the portfolio, the picture, pass that in as the URL field, image field, and then we have this class meta that connects the model to the actual user profile info model, and then we can exclude something. In this case we can exclude user. So we have talked a lot, but this becomes a lot more clear when you actually see it all by doing coding. So what we are going to do in the next lecture is actually cut out everything we just discussed. We will code out the user model, touch a bit in the media directory handling those images, and then about the user form. So media directory and handling images, we set up a lot of that in the previous lecture. So if you did not watch the previous lecture, all they have to end, make sure you are all set up. So thank you for watching this. We will code in the next. Okay.